Thank you, everybody, for coming out for this formal occasion. I do a State of the City basically every week. By law, State of the City is simply a public statement by the mayor about the financial situation in the city. I think I do that every 2 weeks, technically, at the city council meeting. But we decided to put a formal speech together. I want to thank everybody that worked so hard on this. It was quarterbacked by Sharon Zaney, Kevin Smith, my wife Marissa, department heads donated individual portions as well. A lot of hard work went into this speech, and that's really the hardest part. This is the easy part. I just had to know how to read to do this part, right? But there's so many people that put tons of work into a great speech. I just wanted to say thank you, everybody. Could you give them a big round of applause, everybody? I want to start off and thank the elected officials in attendance. I want to start with my bosses, the Hammond City Council. When I took over as mayor 17 years ago-ish, the relationship between the mayor's office and the city council was not positive. You would regularly see 5 to 4 votes. You'd regularly see 4 to 5 votes, where the mayor loses. Sometimes the mayor won, but a lot of 3 to 2 votes in boards and stuff like that. And after a long time of working with the council, after a long time of working with the boards and working together, what you regularly see is 5-0, 9-0, 8-1 sometimes. Some people say, oh, it's a rubber stamp. I think it's a government that works with each other. I really enjoy working with the council, trying to explain why we feel strongly about issues that we do. And I tell you what, I hate hearing people throw that accusation. Oh, they're just a rubber stamp. No, that's a city that's working together. We saw what 3 to 2 votes and 5 to 4 votes were, and we see what 9-0 and 8-1 are now. And I tell you what, I like it a lot better personally, and I hope the council feels the same way, because I really, really go out of my way to try to include the council on decision-making and understanding where we're coming from. So if you don't mind, while I introduce the Hammond City Council, led first by the 5th District Councilman, who's the council president, David Warple. Thank you very much, Dave. I'm going to start with the 6th District first, because Scott always has to go last. And I'd like to remind you that Live in the Ville is this weekend. This is a cause near and dear to Scott's heart. Live in the Ville doesn't appear to have the best weather going for it this weekend, but if you get a chance to get out there, I'm sure Councilman Rakos would appreciate it. Councilman Scott Rakos. I'm going to introduce them even though they're not here, because we work together. Hammond's 4th District Councilman's a great guy. I don't believe he can make it today, but he represents South Hammond well. Bill Emerson. Thank you very much, Councilman Emerson. You're in Hammond's 3rd District right now, and I thought Barry and I would spend 2 nights together because we just had Mayor's Night last night, but he couldn't make it today. But I want to say thank you to 3rd District Councilman Barry Tyler. A gentleman that I spent the day with, unfortunately at a funeral for a Hammond police officer, retired Hammond police officer, and the 2nd District Councilman Pete Torres. Thank you very much, Councilman. A gentleman that was elected when I was elected a long time ago. He was represented Hammond's 1st District since that time, Councilman Mark Kalwinski. Councilman at Large Dan Spitali, a veteran and a friend. Thank you very much. Councilman Barry, I gave you the best introduction, talked about how great you were. It's good to see you, Councilman Barry. Councilwoman at Large, Janet Venez, thank you very much for your leadership, Janet. Councilwoman at Large, Katrina Alexander, thank you very much, Katrina. One of my early mentors in politics, and a guy that's been consistently there for me ever since I walked into this office. It's nice to know that there's a guy downstairs that could help me with being an elected official in this city, because he's done it a lot longer than I have, Bob Golick. Thank you very much. Hammond City Clerk. We have a lot of elected officials, so please bear with me. It's good to see our coroner-elect, Lake County Coroner-elect David Pastrick here. Good to see you. A gentleman that's been a blessing for our city. He was hired in the school city to be the superintendent and lived in Cherville when he was hired. And this gentleman believes so much in our city and so much for the cause that he was being hired for. He moved his home from Cherville to Hammond, Indiana. He's done a great job as our superintendent, Scott Miller. Thank you very much for being here, Scott. A gentleman that was recently elected, our North Township trustee, is doing a great job already. It's good to see him here. North Township trustee Adrian Santos. Another gentleman that has been with Tom McDermott since before I was elected. He was the first elected official that supported me, and he's been a friend of mine and a mentor of mine ever since, Lake County Councilman Dave Hammond. Thank you very much. Another excellent elected official from the city of Hammond. He does a great job in Lake County government. He's a neighbor of mine. He's been a good friend and a good supporter of our city, Lake County Commissioner Mike Ripe. Another excellent representative from the city of Hammond. She's been a 2-term representative in the State House, and she's really made a lot of waves and just done great things for us. Indiana State Representative Carolyn Jackson. Great. He couldn't make it today, but he's also an elected state rep, State Representative Mike Andrade. Good. Thank you very much, Mike. I would be nothing without the department heads. You know, I think that a lot of the great things you see happening, I know a lot of the great things you see happening are because I have great people working with me, advising me, telling me when I'm making mistakes, which is huge because I make them, unfortunately, often. And that's one thing I've learned is it's okay to make mistakes, because if you make mistakes, that means you're going for it. And we've been going for it since I walked in City Hall. And you know, 90% of the time, I like to think we're doing the right thing, but sometimes you make mistakes. And it's good to have a team behind you that can tell you when you're messing up. You know, starting with my chief of staff, he's been with the city of Hammond since 2008. He's done a great job as chief of staff, Phil Talon. Thank you very much, Phil. Corporate counsel has been with me from day one, but he became corporate counsel in 2019 when our corporate counsel, Judge Chris Cantar, was promoted to becoming a Lake County Superior Court judge. Thank you very much. Kevin Smith does a great job as corporate counsel. Head of the IT department, Chris Campbell's been a department head since 2011. Thank you very much, Chris. He's been at the head of the Hammond Fire Department since 2012. He's a great fire chief, Jeff Smith. Thank you very much, Jeff. You know what? Your guys' hands are going to get tired, so why don't we hold off till the end, okay? I'll just go through this real quick and we'll do one big applause, okay? Unless you really feel strongly. Like Colleen, when I say Gary's name, Colleen, you can clap for him. It's okay, right? So he's been with the Hammond Port Authority since 2005, does an excellent job there. Thank you, Mylan Krasinski. He's a new department head in charge of the Hammond Parks Department, done a great job, Jim Talon. Ron Novak celebrates 50 years with the city of Hammond. He's been in this position since 1971. Do me a favor, give Ron a big round of applause. When you get 50 years, you can have a separate round of applause. I think that's a good thumb rule. We'll keep that one in mind. She's new to the team, but I've known her for a very long time. She runs United Neighborhood, Inc. Her name is Levita Sparks-Wade. Thank you very much, Levita. Since 2004, she's been running Hammond's Legal Aid Clinic. Her name is Chris Sakalaris. Thank you very much, Chris. See, I fell off at first, too. I forgot we weren't applauding. Thank you guys for following up. I was like, wow, they don't like the Legal Aid Clinic. Sharon Daniels has been, I've known her most of my life, actually. She's been in her position in personnel and college bound since 2006. Thank you very much, Sharon Daniels. Ann Anderson started in the mayor's office, and she's been running the economic development department since 2017. Thank you very much, Ann. Brian Poland has been with the city of Hammond much longer than I have. He's been in the same position since the day I walked in office. He's Hammond's city planner, done a great job since 2004. Thank you very much, Brian. Awana Miller was in City Hall when I walked in also. She became a department head under my administration, something I'm very proud of. She's been in the same position since 2008. Thank you very much, Awana. Africa Tarver was also working for the city of Hammond when I took over, and I promoted her and promoted her and promoted her. Now she's in charge of planning and development, and she's my appointment to the Regional Development Authority. She's been in that position in planning and development since 2012. Thank you, Africa. Andy Short, my chief of police, has been in that position this year. He's been with the police department much longer, I believe 32 years. Thank you very much, Andy. And he got a nice haircut today for the event. It's nice to see. Thank you, Chief. Carmen Paniagua has been with Hammond Housing Authority since 2012, but she worked for the city of Hammond when I took over as well. And I promoted her and promoted her and promoted her, and now she's running the Hammond Housing Authority. Congratulations. And you know, if you'll notice, a lot of people that I met when I took over as mayor, and I promoted and I promoted and I promoted. That's something I'm very proud of also, because we had a very talented team. And I always tell new mayors, you got a talented team, get to know them, and then figure out how to best utilize them. Carmen's a great example of that. Jack Smith, been with the city of Hammond for a long time. He's been in the sewage department as a CEO, as the department head of sewage department since 2014. Thank you very much, Jack. Marty Wilgus, another person I've known most of my life, has been running Hammond Sanitary District. I don't know, it doesn't say here, but it's been a long time. And he's been with me since 2004. Thank you very much, Marty. Gary Gleason's been with the city of Hammond for a very long time. It says that he's been running this department since 2017, but I know off the face that that's not true. Gary Gleason's been running the Department of Public Works since I became mayor. He's done a great job. He was street commissioner and then ascended to where he is now. Thank you very much, Gary. Dean Button, 2016, took over as city engineer, and he's done an excellent job. Now we've actually increased his responsibilities tremendously. He now runs the capital improvement board. So thank you, Dean. Megan Flores, another huge success story. I met her in my office. She was in high school, was it? Just about. And then I promoted her, and I promoted her, and I promoted her. She's really a success story. She's the Hammond City Controller now, and she's amazing at that job. And I tell you, I appreciate her very much. Andrea Edwards, another lady that's worked for the city of Hammond for a very long time, and I got the opportunity to promote to the I keep wanting to say CEO, Department Head of Zoning. Andrea's done a great job. She's been in that position since 2021. Thank you, Andrea. Bob Vale, been with the city of Hammond in his position as a building inspector since 2018. Does a great job. Thank you very much, Bob. And last and certainly not least, Kelly's wondering what the heck is going on. Kelly Kearney worked for the city of Hammond when I took over, and he was underutilized. And I promoted him, and I promoted him, and I promoted him, and he's been in charge of the inspections department since 2018. That's my team. That's what makes my administration look good. I'm just the quarterback and the cheerleader for an awesome team. So can you give him a big round of applause? Residents of Hammond, department heads, employees of the city, public safety officers, elected officials, and my wife, Judge Marissa McDermott, who's not here because she's in a jury trial. She loves me, though. And Patrick's here, though. Hi, Pat. Hey. Welcome to the City of Hammond Annual State of the City speech. As I stand before you today, I can honestly say that I never dreamed that as mayor I would have to shepherd our city through a pandemic. What a year we have endured. 2020 was unlike any other we have experienced. And I think I speak for everybody when I say that we hope to never experience such a thing again. However, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We have united, endured, and already started our transition back to normalcy. As more and more people are vaccinated, the incidence of COVID-related deaths and illnesses has decreased. Our businesses, churches, and schools are showing signs of recovery. But we must stay the course and remain vigilant to ensure that COVID does not return to upset our everyday lives. As your mayor, I'm proud to report that through this all, Hammond has remained strong and has a bright future. The COVID-19 pandemic has challenged and tested our resolve. According to the World Health Organization, as of June 6, 2021, there have been over 172 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 globally and over 3.7 million deaths. The United States alone has reported over 33 million cases with a death toll of 591,276 and counting. Most of us have experienced the anxiety of family and friends hospitalized and not being able to visit them. Some know the helplessness of having family members passing away alone as they take their last breath. Just last week, City of Hammond's Police Department lost Police Sergeant Tom Sawyer, who died in the line of duty as a result of contracting COVID. We laid Officer Sawyer to rest this morning. His wife and his children continue to be in our thoughts and prayers, as do his fellow brothers and sisters of the Hammond Police Department who have lost somebody so close to them. During COVID, children missed out on proms, graduations, athletics, and even basic social interactions during a pandemic. To date, over 300 million vaccine doses have been administered across the United States. This is a great start, but that only amounts to 45% of the population being fully vaccinated. More people have to become vaccinated as a country if we are going to defeat this dangerous disease. The pandemic didn't just affect those who got sick, Its trickle-down effect wreaked havoc on our social and economic systems as well. In mid-March of 2020, Governor Holcomb's executive order mandated restaurants, small businesses, theaters, casinos, and most commercial businesses to shut down. We saw the hospitality industry in the city hit especially hard, and most economic activity brought to a standstill. Thousands of people lost their jobs and financial stability. Unemployment skyrocketed both locally and nationally. And yet, there were bright spots that showed the industriousness and ingenuity of our city. For example, Hammond's very own 18th Street Brewery used their distillery to produce much-needed hand sanitizer, distributing it to first responders and seniors. People started sewing handmade masks throughout the city and distributed them all over where surgical masks were impossible to get, and our frontline healthcare workers needed them the most. Restaurants became experts at carryout, online ordering, and curbside pickup. At City Hall, we instituted a COVID-19 task force that was informative and whose videos were watched by thousands of people on a weekly basis. Yet no matter how much we tried to avoid it, inevitably, Hammond would feel the financial crush of the pandemic. Hammond's largest revenue source, the Horseshoe Casino, was forced to shut down. Another major source of revenue for the city is property tax revenue. As a result of the pandemic, many homeowners fell behind in their property tax payments as well, creating shortfalls in the city budget. Miscellaneous revenues, which include various licensing and permit fees that were built into our 2020 budget, dried up. In short, the city had virtually no revenue coming in, nor did we see any reason not to believe that this financial and economic crisis was going to change as the year progressed. So the Hammond City Council and I sat down and worked with each other to put forth a plan to attempt to minimize the financial harm to the city. Quite simply, the plan consisted of a total freeze on non-essential spending. Rather than be reactive, the council and my administration were proactive early in the pandemic, creating an emergency financial plan. The plan not only allowed us to meet our financial expectations, but to exceed them, and actually created an end-of-the-year balance of almost $4 million. This is the first time in decades that Hammond has finished the year with such a large surplus. I want to thank the Hammond Council members for their help, their advice, and their support during those tough times. Can you please give them a round of applause? Even with the loss of roughly $9.3 million in gaming revenue in 2020, Hammond prioritized the Senior and Disabled Tax Credit Program and issued roughly $750,000 in refund checks to residents that qualified for the program. College Bound continued to fund millions of dollars in scholarships so that our city's college-age kids were able to further their education, mostly virtually, during this very dark time. There was one thing of paramount importance to me during the pandemic, that the city continued to function and work with our residents and businesses. While other cities throughout Northwest Indiana and Indiana closed up their city hall, Hammond's remained open. The mayor's office, the police department, the fire department, public works employees performed their duties admirably and professionally during the toughest stretches of the pandemic, as did many other departments in the city. I am proud to say we didn't miss one day of garbage pickup. We didn't miss one day of snow plowing. We didn't miss one day of street sweeping, even during the darkest days of the pandemic. Our firefighters, police officers, and public works employees worked tirelessly, along with the mayor's office staff, to ensure the smooth function of the city, despite the complications created by the pandemic. We also made significant structural changes to the way capital projects are determined in the city. In an effort to better plan and manage revenue for city projects, I was pleased to sign an ordinance passed by the City Council on a 9-0 vote that created our new Capital Improvement Board. The CIB receives 62% of net gaming revenue every quarter. In the past, a portion of these funds were divided equally to the 6 councilmatic districts. Each district used the fund to suit the needs of their individual area of the city. Now these decisions lie with the CIB, composed of members of the Common Council, my administration, and chaired by the city engineer, Dean Button. The board grades each project, allowing them to make decisions based on actual need. This ensures city improvements are being completed based on importance and that the projects are coordinated to benefit the city as a whole. Water was a big part of our year as well. I'm sure you all heard the region call foul when Hammond's water rate increased. But there is no question. The original retail rate of 46 cents per 1,000 gallons of water was unreasonably low and had remained that way for nearly 40 years since the rate was last passed in 1984. Think about it. What other product or service has not increased in price over the last 40 years? In fact, the water rate was so low for the Hammond Water Department that the department could not maintain its infrastructure without using money from the civil city. The water department had to borrow money from the Redevelopment Commission just to undertake the much-needed repairs to the water tank at 165th and Columbia. We had to fix this financial problem. The city's water department desperately needed to make necessary system-wide improvements, and I wanted to make the department self-sufficient. This is what led to the rate increase that our residents now pay. To implement this rate increase, the water department hired an outside firm to evaluate and determine what would be the fair rate to charge for water. It was determined that $1.90 was the appropriate amount to charge, and this new retail rate, Hammond still offers, even with this new retail rate, Hammond still offers the lowest retail rate to its residents in the city of Indiana, in the state of Indiana. The Hammond Common Council, after careful thought and deliberation, implemented the new retail water rate, which will result in financing the improvements to the infrastructure that are sorely needed for the necessary repairs and smooth functioning of our water department throughout our city and for our residents. This increased revenue will also allow the water department to pay their fair share of capital improvements, which will in turn free up gaming revenue for other projects. The increased water rate was not welcomed by our customer communities. That's an understatement. Our Indiana customer communities filed a lawsuit against the City of Hammond and the Water Department. While we did not agree with the allegations raised by our customer communities, we thought it prudent to save additional litigation costs and maintain good relationships with our neighboring communities, while still attempting to increase revenue for the Water Department improvements and functions. Therefore, our compromise was reached. This settlement agreement agreed to implement a wholesale rate that will incrementally increase to $1.60 per 1,000 gallons by the year 2029. This agreement will create certainty and stability in revenue for at least the next 20 years. I want to thank the City Council, who earlier this month unanimously passed this wholesale rate and allowed the city to move forward with the settlement with our customer communities. Regarding the police department, William Andy Short was hired by the Hammond Police Department on September 26, 1988, and has been serving the police department for over 32 years. In 2016, Andy was appointed as the first African-American assistant chief of the Hammond Police Department in its history. This year, history was made again, as William Short is now the first African-American chief of police for the City of Hammond's Police Department. I think that deserves a round of applause. As I mentioned when I swore in Chief Short, it's a fact that Andy is an African American, but it is also, and more important of a fact, that Andy was the right police officer for the job who also happens to be an African American. I wish Chief Short and his senior staff all the best as they continue to serve and protect our community. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the former police chief, John Doty. JD led the department for 7 years and was the driving force behind the Academy-bound program that has helped diversify the Hammond Police Department by recruiting more Hammond residents and helping to pay for their academy training. JD was also instrumental in advancing increased technology at the department, equipping the officers with body cameras and implementing the BlueNet license plate reader program. Thank you for your service, John Doty. Can you give him a round of applause, please? So far this year, the City of Hammond has seen a 13% decrease in crime from last year. I want to thank the hardworking men and women in the police department, from the patrol division, to our gang and narcotics unit, to the detective bureau, who are all working hard to keep crime at bay and protect our residents. One of the factors that helps our crime rate stay low is to let the bad guys know we're watching. Hammond's BlueNet license plate reader system has far exceeded anything we could have hoped for. The BlueNet has been integral in investigating and solving many violent crimes and property crimes, including the discovery of dozens of stolen automobiles. Our community partner program expanded the BlueNet's reach by allowing our police to access business and residential camera systems when a crime occurs. Often ignored is the mental and emotional toll that being a police officer has on our men and women who wear the badge. I am proud to announce that the police department has started a new mental health and wellness program. In a time where PTSD and police suicides have skyrocketed across the country, we are focused on keeping our officers safe with counseling programs, physical fitness challenges, and tools to keep those young officers safe throughout their careers. I want to thank our police and fire unions as well, who both overwhelmingly voted in favor of new contracts, 4-year contracts, that will keep our firefighters, police officers, and their families secure financially now and into their retirement. 2020 was a year unlike any other year. We also saw civil unrest ripple across our country, and Hammond was no exception. As social unrest gripped the country in the wake of George Floyd's death, Hammond and the surrounding area was not left untouched by this important social issue. On May 30th of last year, a peaceful protest was planned in front of Hammond's police headquarters to protest the actions and circumstances that caused the death of George Floyd. This peaceful protest grew, and organizers attempted to move down Calumet Avenue with the ultimate goal of entering a highway to shut down Interstate 8094. With the help of the Indiana State Police, the Lake County Sheriff's Department, and our Hammond Police Department, this dangerous plan was thwarted. With the police stopping the group's progress towards the highway, I was able to get into the crowd of protesters to speak to them, to listen to them, which helped me understand more fully the anger and frustration many of the protesters felt around the country. As mayor of a diverse city, it's important that everybody feels welcome, safe, and part of our great city. Being present in that situation, helping to diffuse and disperse the crowd safely and peacefully was one of my proudest moments as your mayor. What started as a peaceful protest in other places turned into rampant looting near us in Chicago and in Calumet City. In Calumet City, I personally witnessed widespread looting in the River Oaks Mall area. It's something I'm never going to forget, seeing with my own eyes. I immediately contacted our police, fire, and public works, asking them to be at the ready to protect the city of Hammond if any dangerous activity moved towards us. On my order, our public works employees barricaded city entrances from Illinois. I believe that's the first time in history we were literally cut off from our neighboring state for a 3-day period. We instituted a curfew over that 3-day period to ensure the safety of our city and to give the police officers the ability to safely and securely patrol our neighborhoods. I believe these actions saved Hammond from the lawlessness and violence that took place in other adjacent communities. Immigration. As part of my emphasis on making Hammond welcoming to all, the city also took on former President Trump's aggressive stand against people who were brought to this country illegally as young children through no fault of their own. These people, called Dreamers, were stripped of protection under the previous president. This issue directly affects Hammond, where about 34% of our residents are of Hispanic or Latin origin. Last year, at my request, on behalf of the Hammond Legal Aid Clinic, who's represented by Chris Costa-Sacaleras, good to see you, Chris. Is Alberto here by chance? Alfredo, excuse me. Yeah. Also at my urging, the Hammond Legal Aid Clinic began offering services for immigration cases last September. I am proud. Last year, at my request, immigration attorney Alfredo Estrada worked to create a resolution unanimously passed by the City Council in support of Dreamers and their right to citizenship, another 9-0 vote. Also at my urging, the Hammond Legal Aid Clinic began offering services for immigration cases last September. I am proud that these free legal services offered by immigration attorney Alfredo and Chris Costa-Sacaleras and the other attorneys who participate in Hammond's Legal Aid Clinic, I am proud that these free legal services have already resulted in several residents obtaining the correct immigration status and setting the stage for their citizenship. While a lot of things paused during the pandemic, economic development did not. The City of Hammond created a brand new program that was shepherded by Ann Anderson, who did a great job. The City of Hammond created a brand new program called the Small Business Resiliency Program in the spring of 2020 to give much needed assistance to the small local businesses that were affected by the pandemic. Excuse me. To date, the city has dispersed almost $1 million to over 115 local companies. The City of Hammond has been praised for the amount of funding it distributed to these struggling businesses in such a short but pivotal amount of time. On a larger scale, groundwork has been laid for several upcoming developments, many of them centering around the downtown Hammond area. The city is working with 3 mixed-use development residential developers with a combined investment into our downtown of over $76 million. That means 260,000 square feet of new residential space and 21,000 square feet of new commercial and retail space. This, in conjunction with a brand new downtown train station and over $4 million in infrastructure improvements along Holman Avenue, means a completely transformed and walkable downtown using the renowned urban planner Jeff Speck's master plan as our blueprint. Excuse me real quick. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. It's like 100 degrees up here. Don't tell Mr. Speck this thing, though. We used what we learned from Mr. Speck in downtown Hammond, and we're taking it to different parts of Hammond, specifically Hessville along the Kennedy Avenue corridor. Kennedy Avenue was never intended to be a high-speed thoroughfare, as it's being used for right now. That's what Calumet Avenue and Indianapolis Boulevard are for. That's why Hessville's downtown will be transformed by slowing down traffic and making this corridor more walkable and attractive. It will focus on making this stretch of Kennedy Avenue more pedestrian and consumer-friendly. This will directly benefit the businesses along Kennedy Avenue and create a thriving economy there. The Hammond Sportsplex in the Woodmar area has been another very successful example of how investing in quality of life boosts economic development. The Sportsplex has become a regional destination for tournaments while still serving our local community in soccer, basketball, and volleyball. I want to thank Jim Talon, who now runs parks, but Jim originally started off in the Sportsplex, and Kim Roberts, along with their staff at the park department, for making the Sportsplex into one of the premier facilities it's become. Could you give them a big round of applause, everybody? But wait, there's more. I'm just reading what it says. But wait, there's more. Hammond's reputation as a recreational destination is about to get a lot bigger. The Dean and Barbara White Family Foundation and the City of Hammond have announced a partnership to build a $45 million, 100,000 square foot YMCA on the former Carson site next to the Sportsplex. You know, this is a family, I'm off script now. This is a family that made billions in Northwest Indiana. And when Mr. White passes, the family is spending the money that they made in Northwest Indiana, which is so wonderful. So can you give the Dean and Barbara White Foundation a big round of applause? When I took over as your mayor, one of my biggest gray hairs, one of my biggest stresses was what to do with Woodmar Mall. We were literally scared to death of what it was going to become under my watch. And now, once that brand new YMCA goes up, I can move on to the next project. I mean, we've done our job there, and it's time to move on to downtown Hammond. It's time to move on to Hessville. It's time to move on to other projects, because I think we've done our job on that one. The YMCA's commitment to healthy families and serving all communities is a perfect fit to this area of the city. It will generate jobs, bring many thousands of more people to Hammond annually, and enhance the success of the neighboring businesses, new and old. Environmental issues. Again, before I start talking about this, I want to again recognize Ron Novak, who's been working for 50 years in the City of Hammond Environmental Department. He runs this department. And in February of this year, this is a big story, and it was an unfair story. And the funny thing is, people pay attention to big, scary stories while they're big and scary, and then when you come out with actual facts, they forget all about it. This is a perfect example, because this was a scary story. In February of this year, after a prolonged Arctic cold and weather event, numerous dead waterfowl were discovered along the shores of Lake Michigan and the channel at Wolf Lake. Port Authority personnel notified the Indiana Department of Natural Resources of this event, and several of those birds were sent for examination and testing. There was much speculation made as to the cause of these waterfowl deaths by members of the public. So in order to help determine or rule out the cause, I ordered our own City Department of Environmental Management, along with the Hammond Sanitary District, to test the soil and water in the area where the waterfowl were found. When it says there was much speculation, it was not even really speculation. It was factual. Wolf Lake is dirty. Wolf Lake is killing birds. Wolf Lake is killing fish. What are you going to do about it, Mayor? It was speculation the entire time. We said, can we please test the water? Can we please test the land? Can we try to figure out what went wrong? But it takes time. And sometimes the media cycle is much shorter than the actual time it takes. No offense to the media, and I love the media. But sometimes the media cycle is much quicker than how long it takes to determine how a duck died or how a goose died, right? I ordered our own City Department of Environmental Management and the Hammond Sanitary District to test the soil and water in the area where the waterfowl were found. The water samples taken from Wolf Lake were immediately analyzed by the Hammond Sanitary District and also by an outside laboratory. Hammond Sanitary District tests our water regularly. I think that was a pretty solid call to have them test Wolf Lake. They don't test Wolf Lake water because we don't discharge into Wolf Lake. But can they test Wolf Lake? Yeah, they test water all the time. So we had Wolf Lake get tested by the sanitary district, and then we sent another sample to a lab in Michigan, totally independent. The analytical results from both laboratories showed the water in Wolf Lake was safe for both humans and waterfowl. I just got done swimming in Wolf Lake, and then I heard people talking about the newspaper story. I'm in there getting ready to do a triathlon. People are like, oh, don't swallow the water. So I purposely took a big mouthful of the water, and I sprayed it in the air to prove to everybody, Wolf Lake is clean. And I'm still standing, by the way. Further, the soil test taken by the Hammond Department of Environmental Management along the Wolf Lake Channel Road showed no elevated heavy metals that could cause harm to either humans or waterfowl. On May 11th, a few months later, Indiana Department of Natural Resources reported that a parasite was the cause of death for the swans. Not the water, nothing they ingested, it was a parasite, like swan cancer. The cause of death for the geese could not be determined, but testing showed negative results for the bacteria, lead, heavy metals, and toxic organic compounds. The results from the soil and water testing performed at Wolf Lake by the City of Hammond supported the findings released by the IDNR. We had people protesting at Wolf Lake, holding up signs that said, this lake causes cancer, this lake is killing birds, and all before the facts came out. I, along with many residents, have concerns about the health and safety of the waterfowl that inhabit our city or pass through our city on their migratory routes. My administration will continue to work with state and federal agencies to assure that the waterfowl within our city are protected. But based on many rounds of testing, I'm confident in the safety and health of our water and soil. We do have one part of our city that we're working on right now. For those of you in this section of Robertsdale, a small portion of the Robertsdale neighborhood of Hammond has an issue with elevated lead levels in their soil. In 2016, the federal EPA began testing for lead in the soil in that area and remediated 21 properties. Since that time, the City of Hammond acquired, under my direction, an X-ray fluorescence analyzer so that the city can conduct further soil testing to determine the scope of the lead contamination in that area. As a result of this testing, we are developing a plan that we have discussed with IDEM to allow the city to speed up the remediation from an estimated 5 to 7 years to under 3 years, allowing our residents to feel secure that we are aggressively tackling this issue and preserving the value of their homes. In closing, this is everybody's favorite paragraph usually. There is no doubt that the past year has been challenging in so many ways. We have suffered through a worldwide pandemic, a nationwide economic downturn, and widespread social unrest. Yet the state of our city remains strong. Why? Because we have spent years working to make this city recession-proof by reducing the cost of city departments without affecting services. We have spent years building an administration full of resourceful, adaptable people who could quickly pivot to new ways of reaching the public. We have embraced the diversity that is much of our strength, creating a strong community fabric. It's no accident that Hammond weathered the trials of 2020 so well. It's due to the tireless work of countless employees, public safety officials, and our elected city council. I'm proud to work with each of you, and I hope to continue making you proud of me in this wonderful city. Thank you all very much. Thank you.